record this. This should be a short meeting. The only real purpose of it is to remind us all after that interesting experience we had 2 weeks ago, that in fact we do live next to the Rogers Fault. And at some point it is quite possible that we could find ourselves in the earthquake side of the Map Your Neighborhood Challenge. So let me run a screen up. And so in going back to the whole Map Your Neighborhood logic, the thing that we talked about was what was called the 9 steps. And so the first 6 were targeted at you, more at your house and more at your personal situation. And as a reminder, I'm
going to get rid of this.
What do you have there?
Thank you.
You get it, Marie?
I had that, so I thought maybe you did too.
Okay.
She fixed it.
To take care of yourself. The dress for safety, and this is the whole logic by which you should have some place as a bare minimum, a pair of shoes that you can get on quickly so that you know, you're not going to end up in a problem. What it doesn't say, and I think you have to also think about, is if there is an extended earthquake, where are you going to go safely? We happen to have a fairly strong dining room table, and that's where we would head under. But be sure to think about that. I realized 2 weeks ago, it'd been a long time since we'd really thought the problem through.
Oh, God.
Then check natural gas. And if in fact there's a possible leak, you may want to shut it off. And a reminder that they suggest shutting off the water at your house main, because you want to protect all the water in your house from getting contaminated by backups through the water system. Then if you'll remember, we have the help or okay sign, which you should have someplace where you can locate it, and put one or the other in your front door or on your window. And then finally, you want to put your fire extinguishers out where everybody else can get at them if they need to.
And before you go on to the next slide, where you say check natural gas in your home, my understanding was that that was going to be one of the tasks that would be fulfilled after the group got together, that someone who knew what they were doing would go around and check the natural gas hookup.
Yeah, this is checking it once we get together on the next step. Okay, if you've got a concern, you're going to want to give the people in that team the task of going to your house and making sure it's shut off properly. But you should check the gas. If you can smell gas, you want to be alerted to that. You don't want to be hanging out in the house longer than you have to. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then this is the Map Your Neighborhood, what you do with the neighbors. The first thing we're doing is going to the gathering site. And we agreed that was the driveway between Ken and Sorab, because it's the biggest flat place we got in the community. And if necessary, they'd open up their garages if the weather was such that we just need to have a place we can go in. Then the second step was to form teams. And there are 3 main teams, one to monitor. Maybe somebody who can't get it. Yeah.
She has the ocean.
Hi, you going to join us? Oh, okay.
Mojo.
Okay, have a fun reunion. Bye. Okay, then the first is to monitor the emergency alerts. That's primarily Ken and myself, because we're the ones who have the 2-way radios to connect in with the Oakmont emergency team. Then the second team were people who were going to check on the neighbors. particularly, and then keep their eye open for any help sign. And the third team were the natural gas team. Okay.
So George,
Yeah.
George, we actually established who those teams were.
Yeah. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah, I
Yes.
have
I remember
that,
doing that, yes.
Yeah.
team number 2 was going to be Susie and Gail. Team number 3 was going to be Tony, Pat, and Bob.
Okay.
And then team number 4 was going to be Christine and Marie.
Okay.
What did team number 4 do?
Team number 4 is the ones looking for the help signs.
Oh, okay.
Again, I think there's some names missing. I've got the
Right.
printout from George's post meeting, if I can locate it. And if it takes too long, I can just send it out.
Yeah. I found it.
Not yet.
Yeah. But for example, I did offer to be on team 2 at the
Yeah.
meeting, so I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was on the gas shut off team 2. But
Okay.
I'm sure I can locate it and send it to you all.
Okay. I think that because we're a fairly compact group, once we get together, we'll sort of see who's available to do which of these things.
That's true.
Teams 2 and 4 are basically doing the same thing because they're looking for people who need help. And then after that, we come back to the gathering site and decide what we're doing next. The main issue for earthquakes is we're not going to be able to leave, and we're not going to be expecting to have additional resources brought to us. So we're on our own. I don't think that's a big problem in the sense that I think among us, we have a lot of skills. When it expands to the groups that are out on Stonebridge Road, there are some additional skills that are useful and resources, but we're going to have to be very careful about how we use them. Several of us now will be having batteries, so we will have some possibility of electric energy, which would help during an emergency. But I was just talking to Marie, that's going to have to be carefully managed. We can't run much of everything. Okay, questions on these 3 before I go to the next slide? Okay. So what you want to do is check off your own personal list. Do you have personal safety equipment? And as I say, the minimum is you've got to have a good pair of shoes sitting underneath your bed, and they all recommend the helmet as well. Do you have your stay bag? This is things you may need for 3 to 7 days. Do you know where your flashlights and area lights are, and do they have extra batteries and charged batteries? And one of the things we talked about when we set this whole thing up was I'm big on the area lights, because when we had the first major power outage 5 years ago, we discovered that it's a heck of it's very awkward to try to see what you're doing in an outage with flashlights. Okay, so the area lights have the advantage. You can charge them up, open them up, and you can see the whole room. You can go ahead and do your business. Now, with luck, we will have electricity here and lights. Your medications, your extra hearing aid batteries, first aid kit. The thing to remember today is these are all things that you won't be able to get in an emergency. So you should be expecting to have extras that will last you basically 5 to 7 days. Well, they say 3 days. You know, if the Rogers Creek fault goes off, we're going to lose all of downtown Santa Rosa probably. Okay, so you can believe that the first responders are going to be there, and the roads are not going to be particularly open. Think about your emergency supplies. Remember, you're supposed to have a lot of extra water. We run multiple gallon containers, which we replace every 6 months. And then make sure you've got your list of everybody here. One other thing is to remember that somebody else here should have access to your house. So in some way, Christine and we share keys with Christine next door. And because in an emergency, somebody may need to get into your house. Okay, that's all I wanted to go over. Anybody want to add anything to that? Okay,
So we talked, George, we talked about that the first hour is the golden hour.
yep.
Can you
That's what I
talk
get.
more about that?
I'm sorry.
Can you talk more about the golden hour? I'm forgetting.
Well, the first 60 minutes to just go through, 1 through 6. And then, making sure that, take care of yourself, your loved ones, make sure you got, your hard hats, shoes and gloves, check the natural gas, put the fire extinguishers out, help signs. That first hour, that's when it's most critical, particularly if we have a major earthquake, 6 or better. That first hour is going to be the critical period.
I mean, I think it's like any other emergency. You want to get in control as fast as possible. And if you have someone who needs help, we want to be on top of that. If we have gas that has to be shut off, we want to get that done. We want to get it done right away. And it's just not a time to be afraid of anything. This is the way part of our world is. And if it happens, you want to be able to respect it. Okay, that's all I really wanted to cover.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
That we're all ready.
Okay, hi Gail.
Good.
So
See, I
if
love the
that's it,
ocean behind you.
we're gonna call the meeting over. I've recorded it and I will send everybody a link to it.
Thanks, George.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Thank
help.
you.
Everybody good.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
May this be a totally irrelevant meeting.